Assalamu alaikum. One of the other questions that we get quite regularly is zakat on property. So there's some confusion and a lot of questions that we receive about properties and whether zakat is due on them. So there's basically three main scenarios that we need to look at. Okay, so scenario number one is a property that you live in. Okay, so you live in this property. You have no other intention. You live in this property. So there is no zakat on this. Okay, that's simple. That's the first one. The second scenario is that you have a property, and let's assume it's a rental property. Okay, so you bought this house or this property and you want it to be a rental property. So how would you do this? Okay, so on a rental property, you don't have to look at the value of the house, but rather the rent. So what you would do is you would take your rent, so the money you generate from your rent, minus the expenses for that home. So that could be the taxes, it could be other maintenance, etc. And whatever is remaining, the net, this amount is what you have to pay the zakat on, 2.5%. Okay, so this is scenario number two. Third one is, let's say you have a house that's for sale. Okay, so you see the marked for sale or you've sold it and you actually have the cash. So let's say it's marked for sale. So marked for sale, okay. And the other one is you just sold the property, okay. So in these two options, whatever is the market value of that property, you have to pay 2.5% on that. So let's say the house was worth 500,000, then you would pay 2.5% on that. Obviously, this also take into account the ownership percentage. Look at the ownership percentage that you actually own. So let's say you own, 50% of it. So then you would only be paying on 250K instead of 500K. Okay, so that's the scenario number three. Now there's another scenario as well, which could be for either one of these. Okay, I want to put it on the side here. This is the third scenario. Scenario is that you're not sure. So, generally, let's say a lot of times people purchase land. It could even be a property. You have purchased it, and now you're not sure what you're going to do with it. So you either have unclear intentions or you have changing intentions. You're not sure. It changes all the time. So in this case, there is no zakat on it until it falls into one of the two categories that we talked about, which is either for sale, so it's either marked for sale or sold, okay, or it is a rental property. Then there's zakat on it. You may even end up living in it. So if you end up living in it, then obviously there's no zakat on it. So this is the simplest way of looking at property. If you live in it, no zakat. If you're renting it, then take the net rent times it by 2.5%. If it's marked for sale or if it's sold, and if you have access to the cash, then obviously you pay 2.5% on all of that cash. If it's marked for sale, then the value of that times 2.5%. Also to keep in mind, the value for marked for sale, you can consider, removing some expenses, such as possibly maybe the commission fees and even the taxes that you might be paying. So you can actually hypothetically do an estimation of how much that might be, and you can actually subtract that from your equation. So just keep that in mind, inshallah. Hopefully you find this beneficial, and it should take care of most of your concerns in relation to property. Jazakallah khair.